Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome back to the Fair Game Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Smith. Today's guest joins us from Houston, Texas, where she is the Corporate Partnerships Manager for the Houston LIvestock Show and Rodeo. Madison Brooks, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad we could get you on the show. First things first, I understand you were recently honored amongst the Cowgirl 30 under 30. I think that was back in November. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I was so honored to be a part of the fifth class of the Cowgirl 30 under 30. The Cowgirl magazine has an incredible program where they honor some movers and shakers, women in the Western industry, under 30, obviously. And so I received that award in November and then got to go up to Fort Worth in the beginning of March to accept the award, meet some of the other recipients as well, and just kind of help build that network and help young women in the future that are involved in the Western industry and kind of continue down that road of agriculture and Western heritage and all of those things. So it's an incredible program that I'm so honored to be a part of.
So what exactly are how do I put this? What are the qualifications? Like, what's the selection process that they go through to say, Madison, you're one of the 30 under 30?
So there was an application process where you just kind of submit your background and some information about what exactly it is that you do and how you contribute to the industry as a whole. And so I went through that process and submitted all of, some of those examples and some of those different things. And so the folks over at Cowgirl Magazine reached out and let me know that they were my group was among the top 30 on that list. So
That's excellent. Well, congratulations on that. And if I'm not mistaken, looking at some of your pictures on your Facebook profile from that, you were not the only fair person that was involved in this. I'm pretty sure I saw Courtney Conkle from the Wyoming State Fair there
yeah,
also.
yes, Courtney was there. She's wonderful. There were actually a few of us that were from the fair and festival industry, so it was really cool to get to connect with other like-minded ladies on that group as well. So fairs and festivals were well represented in the Cowgirl 30 under 30.
Excellent. Excellent. Who are some of the other folks that were there? Because Courtney, I know I've worked her fair before. Uh, I now know we've just met, but
Yes.
I didn't really look through a lot, and it seems like you probably know some of the folks that I don't. Who were they?
We had a wide range from all over we had some folks from some of the retailers specifically. We had some from like PBR, Southwestern Cattle Raisers
Got it.
Association, just lots of different groups and kind of hitting all kinds of different sectors of the industry specifically.
Well, that's pretty fancy. Congratulations on that. If
Thank
they ever
you.
do a Cowboy 50 under 50, maybe I'll qualify for that one.
Absolutely. I'll let them know.
Yeah, really. So let's talk Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Tell us about the event. What are your dates coming up for because you guys are spring, right? You're March,
We will kick off in the beginning of
so
February, end of February, and then
end of
through.
February for 2025, you'll kick off. Excellent. What's your attendance look like and where in Houston are you located?
Yes. So we are a 20-day livestock show and rodeo, as well as a 3-day barbecue. So in 2025, we will kick off on February 27th through March 1st for the barbecue. And then showtime will run March 4th through March 23rd. So we're located at NRG Stadium, where that's where the rodeo takes place, the rodeo concert, and then NRG Park hosts the rest of the event. So we have been in existence since 1932. We're coming up on our 93rd year, 94th year. So we're getting up there. We've been around for a while. So we are all about giving back to the youth of Texas. In 2024, we hit $600 million in funds back to the youth of Texas since 1932.
Well, I'm glad
So
you
that
brought that
was
up because I wanted to ask, what's the impact look like for, I mean, that's a massive show. And I
right,
remember,
right.
God, I remember in March of 2020 when it broke that like 7, 8 days in, something like that, that the show
Mhm.
closed. It was like, oh, that's going to hurt Houston. Little did we know at the time how big the impact for COVID would be.
Right.
But that number you just said, that's a huge number for the local area. And is that just your economic impact, or is that what you guys have raised to support youth and agriculture in the state?
So that's youth and agriculture, 600 million over the course of since 1932. But if you're looking even at just 2024 specifically, we were able to give $27 million back to the youth of Texas through those scholarships and grants
Wow.
and things.
Wow.
And through COVID, one of our biggest pieces was we were able to maintain our educational commitment. So we still gave all of the scholarships that we had committed to through that time, because that is our number one priority, and that's what we're working towards. On the economic impact side, it's actually interesting you say that. We did an economic impact study in 2024 this year, so we're still collecting all of those results and should have those to share soon. But the last time we did it in 2019, we found an economic impact throughout the city of Houston of $227 million per year, with $391 million in economic activity. So it's just
Wow.
a huge driving force in the community for sure.
And that's on a single 20-day event.
It is. It is. Oh, and attendance wise, I know you had asked about that, and
Yeah,
I got carried away in another direction. But
that's okay.
attendance wise, we actually broke our record with 2.5 million people on our grounds over the course of our 3-day barbecue and 20-day event.
Okay, I got to be honest. How do you even count that?
Tickets.
You don't just have volunteers sitting there going click, click, click.
We do. We have all of our gatekeepers actually at our committee. The gatekeepers committee sits at all the gates, and they scan tickets and our badge holders for our volunteers that come in.
Wild.
And we are there. That's a number we're pretty confident in and pretty accurate with. So
So
we
dare I pick a fight on this podcast? Who's bigger, you or State Fair of Texas?
I don't want you to catch me lying, but I believe they have a few more days than us, and so
Yeah, I think
overall
they're 24.
we're pretty neck and neck there.
Yeah. I think year over year I've seen in the, I don't know, almost 20, 20 years I've been in the fair industry now. On any given year, it's within a few 100,000. You guys are just back and forth trading places as the top dog.
Yeah,
Man, it's a
and if
big
you
event.
it is, and if you look at kind of the way the numbers spread, we broke some attendance records with barbecues specifically this year. We had some incredible weather, and we had about close to 240,000 people over those 3 days just in the barbecue. And then we had over the course of our 20 days, we had 1.3 million in the stadium and 1.2 million that were kind of our grounds only attendees. So
Wow.
a good spread.
That's pretty impressive, and I'm glad that you guys were always able to keep that commitment to the youth even through COVID when all hell was breaking loose. I know that was certainly difficult for a lot of our fairs to be able to do that, but our industry is resilient. I think if there's one word that I would use to describe the fair industry as we have exited COVID is resilient.
Absolutely. And
Let's
that's
talk
kind of
about.
a
Go
good
ahead.
point to, our partners on the sponsorship side, as well as our guests and our fans. Everybody's so excited to support and be back in everything completely. So we've had a really good experience coming up.
Excellent. Excellent. Speaking of those corporate partnerships, let's talk specifically about what you do. I tell you what, I've had fair managers, I've had magicians, jugglers, I've had concessionaires. I don't know that I've had a corporate partnerships manager. Can you
Wow.
talk a little bit about the specifics of what that entails?
Sure. So I am a corporate partnerships manager, like you mentioned. We have three of us for the show that work in the revenue division for the Houston LIvestock Show Rodeo. We are fortunate enough to get to work with our partners kind of from beginning to end. So we'll start with them right when they start to show interest of being a part of the show, and then we'll take them all the way to making that partnership come to fruition. So we'll sit down with them and really learn what they're looking for and why they're interested in being a part of our show, what's important to them, what they'd like to get out of it. And so from there, working not only with them, but with our fulfillment team and all of the people that are kind of working on the inside to see what natural ties we can find and where we can really bring some of those corporate partnerships in and bring those businesses in to be really solid partners of the show. From there, we build those things out with the partner and we build them on the inside. And so making sure that we're meeting all of their goals as far as branding or some of those hospitality experiences or different things like that, just depending on what exactly they're looking for. And then where their contact all leading up to the show, during show, making sure they get everything that they're looking for and that they're promised, taking care of them in whatever they might need. And then following the show, which is kind of where the period that we're in now, we'll recap everything and we'll go through what went well and where we can improve and look forward to the future.
Got it. Now, with Houston being the size of show it is, are you really only dealing with like major sponsors like, I don't know, Anheuser-Busch or Dodge, or are you getting smaller? Like, are there small, like a small somebody that might be in a mall in Houston or have a store, a retail a location in Houston that just sells Western clothes? Are you dealing with all sorts of different sizes of partnership?
Our partnerships do vary. We have some multi-year partners. We have some year to year, just depending on how invested they are. Our heritage partners, Ford, Miller Lite, Mattress Firm, Coca-Cola, and Bryant, are long-standing partners of the show, and so we get to work with them on a really extensive basis. But then we do have some smaller partners who come out and are looking for a retail space, but they also want to be able to kind of associate themselves as a partner of the show. And so we work with those too. And for the most part, we try to do everything we can to find the right fit for anybody who's interested in being involved.
Sure.
So it's
So
it's just kind of dependent.
it doesn't just take a like you say a legacy partner who's got a multi-million dollar budget. It could be someone that says, Madison, I want to get involved with the show. We've got a $5,000 or $10,000 budget. What can we do for something? And you guys can work something out with them.
We do have a threshold. Our partnerships are closer to 6 and 7 figures, just
Okay.
depending on what they're looking for. But we do have, our donors department and some of those other things. We'll work with some smaller investment levels to be able to still obviously involve the community in everything we're doing.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. That's kind of what I was trying to figure out because with the show your size, I imagine just based on population, it's you kind of have to have that threshold. Otherwise, your staff is gonna have to be, quadruple the size to handle all the smaller support. And it sounds like there's a place for that support within the organization. It kind of varies on what that's going to look like on the final product for them.
Definitely.
Got it. Got it. So how'd you end up in this role?
So I went to Texas A&M. I graduated in 2019. While I was there, I worked with the Texas Beef Council, Southwestern Cattle Raisers, the Brazos Valley Fair and Rodeo. Had a couple different roles within the agriculture industry. I went to work for the city of Navasota. After that, I was their marketing and communications coordinator. There's a festival out there that they have called Texas Birthday Bash, so I got to run that and had a great experience with them. But I always knew my dream was to work for Houston. I love the show so much, and there had just happened to be a position that opened up, and so I went to work as the sponsorship fulfillment associate along with the team there. So I did that for 2 years, and then I moved up into the account manager position in the spring of 2023. So
Got it.
25 will be my fourth show with the sponsorship department for the show.
Got it. So you weren't even around when all hell broke loose then in 2020. You missed that adventure. I
I
mean,
wasn't.
you definitely were impacted where you were at, but you were not directly impacted at Houston because you hadn't shown up yet. Wow.
Right.
Well,
kind of got to be when everything got back to normal. I got to see all of that. So
yeah, excellent. Well, I'm glad you are part of the show. It seems like you found a good fit for you.
absolutely.
What's the key to building successful corporate partnerships? Because, like you said, it's one thing for a fair to say, well, we've got a sponsor that's, small fairs in Iowa. If it's a $500 sponsor, they're thrilled to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with massive accounts. What's the key to success with those folks?
I really think that the biggest thing is having a great relationship and a great partnership with these entities. So we are so proud of our partnerships, and we're able to really listen to them, listen to what they're looking for, and making sure that whatever we build is going to be successful for the long run because it's beneficial to the show and to the partner. So really listening to what they're looking for and thinking creatively about what we could deliver to fulfill that need. So whether it's a contest that might be a good fit, in on our livestock side, or if it's something like an event in the rodeo, or if it's branding or those hospitality experiences, just really finding things that make sense rather than just putting a logo up on a somewhere or kind of fitting people into a specific box, really thinking creatively about what meets the goals that they're looking to hit.
So you're looking for kind of unique activations for each of these partners versus just the logo soup that we see at so many other events where it's just a sign with 50 logos on it.
Right. We work really hard to make sure that everything is customized to our partners and that they have organic ties to whatever it is that they're sponsoring. I think it resonates better with our guests, and it is more organic for them and for us moving forward to be able to really tie a partner to something that makes sense for them and achieves all the things that they're looking for.
Can you give an example of a successful activation that you guys have done, maybe in this last fair?
Absolutely. I think Miller Lite is one of our heritage partners, like I mentioned. And so they have a couple spaces around our grounds, but a few that they've built they have their Miller Time Bar, which is kind of an outdoor backyard type space. It's a great draw for our crowd who, they come out and they just want to sit down somewhere and have a beer. And so they've created this environment that's really, really welcoming of that, but also pulls in the rodeo feel and the Western heritage type feel. And so it's very easy for our guests to really adopt that and really accept that area. But then they also recently built an area called the Topo Chico Hard Seltzers Oasis. And so it's kind of a hangout area like that too, where there's tables and things that they can go sit and hang out. But it became a really big draw on our Go Tejano days. Our mariachi bands go up and perform, and they have the dancers and things. And so it's really ingrained itself as a destination on our grounds because it is a draw for a crowd that wants to go be a part of that, and so it just really fits really well with our community and with the show in general. So it's really great to see some activations like that where they're able to draw on successful parts of our show and put those things together to make something so successful.
Excellent. If another young person in the industry wanted to take a shot at a career like yours, what advice do you give them?
I would say that working hard and being passionate about what you're doing is always going to put you in the right spot. I think that when I graduated from college, I had no idea that this is where I would be 5 years later. I didn't have was just kind of following wherever everything took me, and knew that I loved this industry and knew that I was willing to do whatever I needed to continue to find new opportunities. And I think just kind of trusting that process. I know that sounds cliche, but really, putting in the back work to work hard and be passionate about it all will always get you to the right place. And also just kind of finding value in every experience you have. I think connections that you make in places that you don't expect or skills that you learn along the way are always going to be more beneficial than you can probably predict at that time. So just kind of finding the value in those sorts of things.
What is it you love about working for the Houston LIvestock Show?
Well, I love the event. I'm very passionate about it, about just overall how much I love it. But my favorite thing is that everybody that you talk to has a story, right? They have a reason why it means something to them, or they know somebody who has a huge connection to it, or everybody has something that makes it special to them. For me, my dad worked in poultry growing up, and so every year we would go, and it was just a standard thing that every March we would go to Houston. We'd spend a couple of days there, and he would go check on the chickens, and that was just what we did. And so it meant so much to me to get to go do that with him that I just ingrained this love in me. And then my mom owned a flower shop, and so we would go compete in the floral competitions up there. And so there were a lot of things that made it really personal and made me love it so much. And the thing that I love about the show is that everybody has a story. Everybody has, whether it's a student that received a scholarship that allowed them to fund their education, or it's a livestock exhibitor, or one of our athletes that got to compete in the rodeo. There's just everybody has some sort of connection. It's really cool to see and hear those stories.
Sounds like you really like getting to know other people.
I do. Absolutely. I like to hear people's stories and why they think and feel the way they do.
So it takes a real passion for people to be able to do this job successfully.
I think so. I think and being willing to listen and being willing to understand why people want and need the things that they do.
Can you talk about, I know it's a fairly young career so far, but can you talk about some of the highlights and even the lowlights of your fair career so far?
Sure. Um, Highlights, I would say something that, the over the course of the last year or so that I've really has been a big deal to me is kind of seeing some of the projects that you put so much into come to fruition. Um, for example, we had a partner come in that really wanted this elevated hospitality experience, but they also had a little bit of a tech skew, and so they wanted to somehow find a way to make all of those things happen. And so, with a lot of help from a lot of different people and a lot of facets of the organization, we were able to build this really, really cool, custom, exclusive, elevated hospitality experience for this partner, while also highlighting all of the sophisticated technology that goes into putting on a show like ours. And so we built it literally from the ground up and had a million meetings about how we physically build this, and then how we also conceptually build this, and all of those things. And so getting to see that come to life and really be a great experience for those people is something that I just getting to see it all come together um, has been that's a huge highlight for me.
Excellent.
Yeah. Lowlights, I think, it's our event is 20 days long, and so that can be kind of exhausting for 20 days. But I think it's harder that we go 11 months without it. We miss it. It's hard. So kind of navigating that, but it's good. We love it, and it's like Christmas when it comes around.
Yeah, the length of some of these fairs, especially the long ones. I know, having done LA County a couple of times and worked OC Fair for 5 years. And I'm just an entertainer. I was doing 3 or 4 shows a day for 30 minutes at a time, and I was exhausted by the end of that run. I
That's a
cannot,
different feat too, though. That's a
it
lot.
is, but I cannot imagine your side of it. The fair managers and the entertainment directors, I know that they're like, yeah, we got out of here at 3 a.m. and we had to be back here at 7. It's like, what? And you do that for 5 weeks? Are you kidding me?
I really think it's adrenaline, though. You Once you get going, you get in the rhythm of it, and you're good to go. You just keep rolling.
Yeah, I've definitely found, from the entertainment standpoint, there's two lines of thoughts with the big fairs. Everybody wants the big fairs because if it's expensive to move your show down the road, it's better
Hmm.
to be in one spot for 5 weeks. It's
Right.
more economical. On the other hand, if you need changes of scenery the way I do, I've discovered that I love 5 and 6 day fairs, because every time that I'm like start to get kind of stir crazy, and I think part of it's just because I'm on the road alone, my family's back home, and I'm living in an RV, and I'm like, okay, I need some movement. And so it's always, what's the next fair? Okay,
Hmm.
I only got to make 2 more days and then I get the next fair. Meanwhile, you've got like 3 weeks to go.
We do. But what's kind of cool is we have 6 special days across the course of our show.
You
And
have special
so
days?
we have special days.
Okay.
We have like opening day, and we recognize our armed forces, first responders, Black
Got
Heritage
it.
Day, Go Tejano
Got
Day,
it.
all of those things. And so it really is cool to see how it really changes the grounds each of those days. Whenever we come out, they come out, and um, they all activate, and they all bring different things, and it brings in a different crowd, and it just really changes the feel and the vibe of the place. And so, yes, we are locked to the same footprint, but it is a little bit of a change of scenery. You get a little bit of
Sure.
a different experience. So, but I totally understand that.
Yeah. Well, and that is one of the nice things that I remember, having done a number of the larger fairs that have long runs. You do get a lot more opportunity for, well, this is a different theme night, a country night, a Latin night, and that alone, that can change your entire fair. That day you walk in and you're thinking it's going to be kind of, hopefully just the same quiet, mundane, and then it's like it's the big country night, or it's the Latin night, or it's whatever the thing is you've got going on, and it just changes the whole energy
Right.
on the ground. It's really pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
If you could snap your fingers and change one thing right now about the show in Houston, what would you change?
Oh, we need more space. That would be my change. We are very, because of our location, we're very landlocked, and the amount of space that we have is the amount of space that we have, and so um, it is, it can be a little bit tricky to navigate giving, our partners specifically, giving them as much space as they want when we don't have any more to give,
Yeah.
and being able to accommodate for parking and transportation and all those things. We have we have very limited boundaries, so we have to be very mindful of that. So I would give us more space.
More space. Imagine that.
Yeah,
Somebody in Texas needs more space.
that's crazy.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. It is,
Mm.
especially considering that some of the fairs I do in Iowa wouldn't even fill up a 20th of one of your parking lots.
I I believe it, but when you get out there and we have 160,000 people on the ground, you're thinking we could use a little more, have
Yeah.
a little more space.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the nice things from my side of the aisle, being an entertainer, getting to go to all these different fairs. I have worked OC Fair, LA County, or Washington State Fair, where these are huge events, but I've also worked little free fairs that set up in a park in Iowa and everything in between. So getting to see that kind of cross section of the industry and how things operate is really cool. I'm wondering, do you get to travel to other fairs around Texas or around the country, or are you so busy with Houston that you're just kind of on site and that's that?
I've actually made it a big priority to go try to see other fairs and festivals. I think that's a huge way for us to learn and grow, and to see what all of our other kind of counterparts are doing, and learn some of those things, because I think that's a great perspective that you have. It is a little tricky for us when we get to the beginning of the year with San Antonio and Fort Worth and everything, but I was able to make it down to San Antonio this year. I actually made it out to Cheyenne last year, so that was great to kind of see what they have going on. I worked for a little bit for the Brazos Valley Fair and Rodeo, so I like to go visit
Okay.
them. Um, and then just kind of some of those other. I know there's a lot of like Waller County out near Houston, so we try to get around and see as much as we can.
Excellent. Let's switch it up here and get to know you a little bit more personally. I'm curious on this. What has your time in the industry taught you about yourself?
I think for me, it's really driven home how passionate I am about it. Like we talked about, kind of my background and my dad and those things. I knew that I had a passion for agriculture and getting to know people, but it's really taught me that this is where I am meant to be, and that I really, really have the drive and passion behind helping people build those memories and being a part of something bigger than myself, like getting to give back to the education fund and help support Texas youth. And it's I guess it's taught me that this is this is where I'm meant to be. This is where my passion is.
You have found your place, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
If you hadn't come into this industry and found your place, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I'd be in entertainment regardless. I love the, like you said, the getting away from the mundane and everything, every day being different and new challenges and things like that. I love that side of things. So maybe in the entertainment industry, like traveling with a show or traveling with bands or
Would you join the circus? Is that what you're telling me, Madison?
no, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't know if I have any talents that really go with the circus, but
I know
I
a
think
few circus people.
I don't know that I have talents that fall within there, but I think I could, maybe a band, maybe coordination for something like that. I think go that direction.
You could be a management, like an agent. I could see you totally being an agent for a music act.
Yeah, I used to kind of be into that. I could see that.
You could handle that. You wake up tomorrow and you're face to face with 15-year-old Madison. I understand you're significantly younger than I am, so that's not all that long ago for you.
Still a
But
while back there.
it's yeah, okay. Anyhow, you wake up, you're face to face with 15-year-old Madison. What do you tell her?
I think a little bit of what we talked about earlier, just trusting the process, that really sticking to those morals of working hard and going where you're passionate, and trusting my gut, to always follow your gut and know that Your intuition won't let you down. So just as long as you're working hard and being respectful and honest, and you'll get where you're supposed to be. So staying true to that is important,
For
especially when you're
sure.
15. Life's hard.
Yeah. Well, and you have mentioned now several times in the show trusting the process. And I think that's really cool that it's clearly something that at your is one of those core values for you, because it's just quietly has kept been a recurring theme in the show when we've talked about this kind of stuff. You know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? You know Gary V?
I don't think so.
You should look up Gary V.
Okay.
He's a he's an I want to say an ad executive, but he runs a company called VaynerMedia.
Mm.
They do like Super Bowl commercials and they do the creative side for that. But one of his things that he's been very big on, especially with young people, is, people that'll tell him they're 23 years old and they go, Gary, I just feel so lost. Like, I feel like I should have made it by now. And he's like, his quote, and actually we have it on the room or on the wall in our son's room. You're not lost. You're just early in the process.
I
And
love
it's
it.
and it sounds like that's something that maybe without knowing it, you've lived by, because there is an element of, especially when we're young. God, I remember going through my 20s trying to figure out what the heck I was going to be, what the heck I was going to do with my life, and thinking all my other friends are settling into their careers, and I don't know what I'm doing. And now here I am, successfully running a business within the fair industry, because it was about the process. It you know, took
Yeah,
patience.
I love that. And I think that's so important and so true. Um, Coming out of college, all of my best friends were nurses. And I remember thinking, like, they've got it figured out. They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what they're doing. And I'm gonna just figure it out. I'm gonna just go with kind of where the wind blows me, and kind of stay true to those things that are important to me. But I'm sure um, land where I need to. So I'm very blessed and very grateful that that's kind of how it's gone. But to your point, I think that is huge, especially in the early stages of your professional career, and just kind of being open to all opportunities, and
Yep.
continue to strive towards that.
Well, and I would just say to anybody listening, especially if you're younger and you're still like in your early 20s, or hell, I don't even know if I had it figured out in my early 30s. But if you're at that point, it can be difficult, especially if you're doing something like on my side with entertainment that's not so much of a conventional career. This is a self-employed, figuring out my own way. If you're young out there and you're getting it from your parents, I can commiserate with you, because there was more than a few times that had a conversation with my mom that was, well, Rob, when are you going to get a real job? Mom, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to figure this out. And along the way, I had to do some odds and ends along the side. I was a substitute teacher for a little bit because that gave me flexibility and gave me some income. But if you really believe in what you're doing, you just have to push past that, even when it's your family and they always want the best for you.
Mhm.
But even when it can be hard when it comes from family, and you have to tune out the noise and just focus. And so I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to give myself 5 years to figure this out. And then if not, then I'll go for the quote unquote conventional job. Well, it took me 20 years to be an overnight success. But I was well enough on my way after 5 years that I was like, all right, this is what it is. And then, we were talking about large fairs. That Washington State Fair, it was the Puyallup Fair back then in 2010. They booked me, and that was the last time that I was ever asked when I was going to get a real job.
That's how you know you made it.
That's yeah, because at that point it was like, huh. And they kind of, you know, I didn't disclose directly what I made, but it was like, okay. All of a sudden they quit asking, and I'm like, good. They, so
Uh, That'll make it work. And to that point too, I think, talking about becoming a substitute teacher along the way and some of those things, there are all those experiences that you can pull from that I'm sure have helped you, in your ability to relate to people and some of those things. Like you learn skills and you pick things up that'll ultimately help with your end goal, no matter what it is you're having to do to kind of help support that dream.
absolutely, absolutely. What's funny is that I got my degree from Eastern New Mexico University, which is just across from Lubbock, just inside the New Mexico border in a little peanut town.
Yeah.
Your property is probably bigger than all of Portales, New Mexico. It's really, yeah, it's tiny. But I can tell you, having got that degree in television production, I worked in TV news for like 2.5 or 3 years. And yet the thing I take from that degree is my ability to do stuff like this, to edit, to, interact and do the production side of it. But then you talk about substitute teaching. So one of my attractions, Play with Giants, which is like a game and activity fun zone, an ag themed deal. So it's basically kid zone, and you get kids that are super well behaved, and then you get kids that need a little redirection. And nowadays, instead of like, and I've done this for a while. My wife is an educator, so I've picked up a lot of this from her. When you get the kids that are a little bit on the rambunctious side, do you, hoot and holler at them to quiet down or to not be so rough? Or do you redirect? And so,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I take a lot of those skills that I learned as a substitute teacher, and I'm like, oh, I can do this
Yeah.
at the fair. I can literally make sure the kids are not destroying all of my stuff and
Yeah.
give and not make them feel bad about it. We just simply redirect their attention.
There you go.
So
There you go.
if you had to live, this is the first time I think I'm asking this one. If you had to live one day of your life over and over again, just like in the movie Groundhog Day, which day would it be and why?
This is a hard question.
This is a hard question,
Yes,
but I knew you would be able to handle it.
I think so. My I think there are a couple, but I think top of the list would be um on March 8th this year, whenever they had the Cowgirl Gala for the award. It actually fell right in the middle of our show. So it was the second Friday of the Houston LIvestock Show Rodeo when the gala fell. And so the way we ended up having to make it work, I worked beforehand and then I got on a flight out of Houston at noon and I flew to Fort Worth, got there. My entire family was there waiting for me. We went to the gala and I got to meet all these incredible women and all of these people that all the sponsors and the Cowgirl Magazine folks that have supported everybody. And so I got to kind of interact with them and meet everybody for a few hours. And then I got back on a plane and I flew back to Houston to make it back in time for, we had Lainey Wilson the next morning. So coming in. So I got to make it back in time. And so I didn't miss my show that I love so much, but I also got to meet all these incredible ladies. And it was such a fast paced, fun day. And my entire family that I love so much. And I'm so grateful that they were able to make that trip for me and be there for that was all there. And so it was just a really special day. And it was all of the things that I love the most. So I think that would be my day.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's very specific, which I didn't when I saw this, I heard someone ask it. I was flipping through Instagram and I heard it asked on another show, and I was like, that's a good question. I didn't know what to expect from it. And you gave a very specific answer. I have thought about this myself, Madison, since about a week ago when I wrote it down on your list of questions. I don't know what day it is for me. I haven't figured it out yet because I've got like a dozen floating around in my head. Like, December 7th, 2010, when my son was born. Like, yes,
Right.
oddly specific. I don't know that my wife would be down with reliving that over and over and over
Over and over
again.
every day.
I
No.
would not want to subject her to that. But yeah, I don't know if I've got an answer. But
will,
my goal is going to be to figure before the end of this year, I got to figure out the answer to that question.
yeah, I want to know the answer. I want to know your day. I think there's a lot of high contenders, but I think maybe that one because it's so fresh on my mind is my top right now.
As much as this, I can tell you one of them. I don't know if this is it, but it would have been on or about May 15th, 2000.
Okay.
My now wife and we met working on the Disney College program
Okay.
down in Orlando. And we quickly became very close, but she was dating somebody else and I was dating somebody else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the day the program ended and we left Orlando, my cousin picks me up at this apartment complex that Disney owns and drives me to the airport. And as I left, the pain that I was in, because I knew the person that my person, I was leaving them. I
Mm,
knew that my relationship with this other girl was over. There was no
mm.
cheating or anything that had gone on. We were faithful, but I knew at the core, I was like,
You just
this is
knew.
it. This is it. This is the person. I
Yeah.
found her. And now I have to leave her. And I got 2.5 freaking years of college left to go. How do we figure this out?
Oh, where was she going back to?
Southern Mississippi. She was in
Oh,
Biloxi, and so
oh,
she went to
okay.
USM, and I went to ENMU, and it was like, how do we figure this out? And it's odd that of all the days, all the happy moments that I could pull out, one of the ones near the top of the list that would be my day was that day, because
Mhm.
as much of a struggle as it was, that I've never been as resolved or determined at any point in my life as I was on that day. I drove driving away from her. I was like, all right, my entire existence is about how many steps are between me and getting back to her.
Wow. And
So
the
I did,
confidence in that, right? Like
oh,
the
hugely.
purity.
I did 2.5 years of credits in 2 years. I did
Oh,
like three 18-hour semesters in a 15. I'd never done more than 15 before that. And I was like, nope,
gotta
I'm
go.
I'm motivated. Let's go.
That's awesome. That you know at your core that that's exactly what you're supposed to do, and it gives you the drive to get there.
Yeah, and it was an insane moment because let me just remind people who are listening, this was 2000. FaceTime was not a thing. The iPhone was still 7 years away.
Mm,
We the cell phone my parents gave me was for driving back and forth the 4 hours from Albuquerque to Portales. It was one of those plans that was 30 minutes only. You had 30 minutes a month. So let's see, 2000, how what you would have been what, like four, three,
three.
three. Got this. Three. You grew up spoiled. So we didn't even have a cell phone that we could. I didn't
Oh,
have my
that's
first cell phone until I graduated from college, became gainfully employed, and could pay for it myself.
wow.
So we had this thing with phone cards. There were phone cards back in the day. So, but the way they worked, we could get a really cheap one with long, like 500 minutes on it. I could
Hmm.
get one from the bookstore at Eastern, and it was only like, I want to say like $10 or something like that. But because of the way it was set up, each time you made a call, they charged you like 30 minutes off of the card. So you wouldn't get the full 500 unless you just used it in one time.
Hmm.
So I would buy those, and every weekend we would have like this 3.5 or 4 hour until we fell asleep conversation. Her mom had I guess a Sam's or Costco or whatever membership, and they would buy like a 10 pack of 60-minute cards so that, and she would scratch the numbers off and she would send me half of them and she would keep half of them. So if we just needed to hear each other's voice during the week and talk for 10 minutes,
Hmm.
we could
You
do
didn't have
that.
to use your big one.
We didn't have to use the big one. And we did that for let's see, it was 2000. We did that for just over 3 years.
See, that's a very impressive. That'll show you, right? Like that'll
Yeah.
show you that that's what you're working towards, and you know it.
Yeah, we did 3 years long distance, and then I was like, "This is stupid. I'm moving to Biloxi." I'm like, "I've got money. I'm gainfully employed. I'm going to be gainfully unemployed after I leave." But yes, so anyhow, I'm where our listeners are probably like, "Why are we going down this rabbit hole?" But
I
like,
love it. I love it.
that's what when I think about the day, it's hard for me to answer that one question specific for one day to live over and over because there's this whole collage of memories
Hmm.
that mean the world to me that I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fun looking back on the phone card days.
Yeah,
Anyhow, so anybody listening, y'all are spoiled now because you have things like Zoom and Skype and FaceTime. Like what you and I are doing was like a pipe dream. I remember working at Disney in 2000 when we were in Disney World and when you rode Spaceship Earth at Epcot, you go through this whole the community of tomorrow and what it's going to look like, and they had this scene set up where like the grandkids were talking to grandma on a TV screen, and grandma was like two scenes later across the country talking to the grandkids, and it was just a pipe dream. And now
that
look at
is
this,
crazy.
we're
That's crazy.
using this technology to run an entire podcast and like,
Yeah,
so things grow quick.
they do. They do.
Any
Everything's changing.
Yeah, And I love it, but I'm not sure about the AI thing. That does kind of scare me. Are you guys looking at anything with AI? I mean, is that on y'all's radar at Houston?
There are some places that the tech as a, the technology evolves and things that our IT department is kind of working some of those things in, but we're still growing in that direction for sure.
Yeah. I can see a place where AI is going to do some really interesting thing, especially when it comes to even like ticket sales, and that's going to be really wild. Well,
Right.
listen, we've been chatting here for about 45 minutes, so let's go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Okay.
Everybody who comes on the show, I don't know if you've got a chance to listen to any of the shows, but everybody who comes on goes through a little quick section of a speed round questions. So I'll ask you 4 or 5 questions. You give me your best answer. Madison, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number 1. Best concert you've ever seen at the Houston Livestock Show?
Oh, okay. My favorite was Cody Johnson in 2022.
Okay.
We get to take some of our partners. Sometimes they have these experiences where they go and watch the concert down on the dirt. And so we were hosting one of those. So we were down on the dirt, and it was my first show on this side. And so it was kind of my first experience to be on the dirt for the concert with all these people. And everybody had their cell phone lights on. It was the first full show back. And of course, Cody Johnson puts on an incredible show.
Huge.
It was a
Yeah.
sold out house on a Tuesday. And it was just I just remember chills and tears, and like it was just the most overwhelming place to be. And so 2022 Cody Johnson. That's it.
That
That's the best.
that makes sense. When you fly, are you an aisle seat or a window seat?
Window, definitely window.
Last book you've read?
I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, listening to Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
I was gonna, as soon as we stopped the recording, I was gonna chat with you about that.
Yeah.
And last question: a movie is made about your life. Who plays Madison?
Oh, um, that's a good question too. I I've been told my dentist told me one time that I looked like Miranda Lambert, and she's not really an actress, but I feel like that would be my best that would be my best guess.
She could pull it off. I could see like a young Jennifer Aniston pulling it off. You know,
I'll take that.
yeah,
Of Lainey Wilson. I Somebody said we had some resemblance, so maybe that route. I don't know. I'd take any of those.
right? Because
Yeah.
a movie's getting made about your life. Like, it's all good. Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Madison. Where can folks connect with you online?
Yeah, so the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo can be found at rodeohouston.com and at Rodeo Houston on all socials. My Instagram is Madison_E_Brooks. And thank you so much for having me. It was great to get to chat with you as well.
Well, I'm glad that you could be here today. And to our listeners, all 6 of you, thank you so much for being with us. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.